And happy Wednesday. Sorry, happy Wednesday. Like time is going by so quickly, but also would love to wish you all a happy 2024. I'm so excited to kickstart our IG Live for 2024, and I'm super excited to introduce the amazing Dr. Leah Murray. So I've had my own personal experience with Dr. Leah in 2022, and she played such a key role in my gut healing journey. We'll probably touch on it in a little bit, but before I bring her on, I just wanted to introduce her and just share. She is an integrative medicine doctor, and she's got over 15 years of experience. She's got her own practice based in Constantia, and she's absolutely amazing. I feel like I've been through quite a few doctors in my time, struggling with gut issues, and I've got autoimmune in my family. And so it's just been such an incredible experience connecting with Dr. Leah. And now I get an opportunity to have her on here and chat to her about all things gut health. So I'm just going to add her. In the meantime, if you have any questions for Dr. Leah, at the end of our session, we will be covering those questions. So we'll just wait for Dr. Leah to join us. But thanks to those that have joined us so far. I see some familiar faces. Thank you so much. Hopefully we have no technical issues. I see Vanessa's joined us too. Welcome. See, we're getting some questions already. Let's see, hopefully. So she's unable to join. Here we go. Let's see. There we go.
Hi.
Hello, Dr. Leah. How are you doing?
Good, and you?
Good. It's pretty hot.
It's so hot. I'm sweating.
I know. So I've moved to the bedroom so that I can have some aircon at least. But thank you so much for joining us. I just did a short introduction before you came on, and I just said that you played such a key role in my healing journey as a whole, actually, but more specifically when it came to the gut, and I learned so much from you. So it's such an honor to have you here and get to chat about the gut. So welcome to the Bloom community space and the IG Lives that we started towards the end of last year. This is really just a platform for us to help educate the women and men in our community, and we believe through education we can empower people to understand their bodies better and therefore make better decisions regarding their health and wellness. So to kickstart, I think we'll be covering a couple of questions. I did mention to them if they've got any questions, they can pop it in the comment box and we can cover it at the end. But let's start with, what does gut health mean?
So gut health, I mean, if you think of the gut, we often just think of it as this sort of tubular structure running from our mouth all the way to our bum, that we eat and we absorb nutrients and we eliminate waste. But it's so much more than that. You've got what we call your gut-associated lymphoid tissue, which is a huge part of the immune system that resides in the gut. So one of the best ways to boost immunity is actually to get your gut sorted. And then about 70% of the gut's function is detoxification. So also another thing that we need to do very well if we're going to feel well and age well. And then you've got your neurotransmitters. So These are chemicals that are responsible for our mood, play into anxiety, how we sleep, and a lot of these are actually made and stored in the gut. It's estimated about 90% of our serotonin, which is our main happy hormone, is actually made and stored in the gut. And then you've got the microbiome. So the human microbiome is this colony of bacteria and yeast living on and in the body, of which the gut's microbiota is actually the largest portion. And it's kind of just the tip of the iceberg that we've delved into so far in terms of studying the microbiome. And so that's also something that's very much responsible for so many things that are going on in the body. So yeah, when you think about gut health, it's all of that, all encompassing. And I just find it, every new patient that comes to see me, it doesn't matter what they come in with, what the main complaint is, we always start off doing sort of focusing on gut health, and often that's all we actually need to do.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. And interesting, we'll probably touch on this later, but just the connection between the mind and the gut is so crucial. And I think a lot of us don't know about that. So often we end up going to the doctor and our moods and anxiety and depression is sort of, rearing its head, and then the doctor just puts us on a mild antidepressant. Meanwhile, if we could focus a bit more on the gut. So let's maybe dive into, what does a healthy gut look like versus an unhealthy gut?
So a healthy gut really is a healthy person. So, and to be honest, unfortunately, I see that very seldom, where people really, their guts are thriving, because there's a lot in our environment that plays against us having healthy guts. We're exposed to so many endocrine disruptors, antibiotics, sterilizers, and all of that has a big role to play in our what we call gut dysbiosis. So that's an imbalance in the microbiome, and then also damaging to the lining of the gut. And so a healthy gut would be someone with lots of energy, they sleep really well, their skin looks great, they don't have any autoimmune conditions, their mood's good, and then the opposite would be an unhealthy gut, can be the opposite to all of those. So people are tired, they've got eczema, they've got lots of food intolerances, they can't sleep nicely, or they're restless and sweaty when they sleep. Obviously, the actual, the stools can play up. They could be nauseous. They can have heartburn, bloating. Bloating is a big one.
Terrible thing. Yeah,
yes,
bloating. Exactly. I remember when I got to you, I was struggling so much with bloating and high levels of inflammation, lower energy, and I just didn't feel myself. I struggled to get out of bed in the morning. I think that combined with my lower iron obviously had a huge role to play. So yeah, let's maybe go into what are the factors that contribute towards an unhealthy gut, and what should we sort of look out for?
So I like sort of starting at the top. So if you take, you've got your mouth, your esophagus, and then your stomach. One of the things I'm quite passionate about getting right is people checking and sorting out potential low stomach acid. So even if you're struggling with heartburn, indigestion, this epigastric tenderness, nausea, often it could have arose from low stomach acid. So there's a very simple test, the bicarb test, where you drink some bicarb and see if you burp. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's just physics. It's just checking to see if there's enough stomach acid there. So that's one of the first things that we want to sort out if present. And then lower down, obviously you want to really take into account the gut lining. It's really an incredible little membrane. It's actually just one cell layer thick. And so one little cell separating the inside of your gut, the lumen of the gut, where all your food is, your bacteria and yeast of the microbiome, digestive enzymes, etc. And then just one cell separating that from the blood. And so many of us, because our gut lining is disrupted, or the correct term is gut wall hyperpermeability or leaky gut. you're getting stuff that is going into the bloodstream that shouldn't be going there. And then that's got a knock-on effect for everything, and especially autoimmune conditions. Yeah. And then microbiome disruptions, as I mentioned, the antibiotics and too much of a sterile environment.
I know from my experience, due to sort of chronic stress over the years, I developed gastritis. And so I was then put on PPIs. And I wasn't told you shouldn't be on it for longer than 12 months, because then that starts to negatively impact the absorption. And it was really through connecting with you and you putting me on your program and really understanding, like, all the supplements I was taking, it didn't matter because nothing was being absorbed at that stage. So it's so crucial, whoever's listening and watching this, is that, like, you need to, prioritize your gut health. Make sure that you're doing the right things to help aid absorption and digestion and be able to allow your body to take in all the good stuff. So perhaps walk us through, like, when a patient comes to see you and you realize their gut health isn't great, what is your protocol? What are your tips?
So because this has really become my bread and butter, and because I'm so passionate about getting people's guts sorted out, I've put a 25-day gut reset program on an online platform. And it's available for anyone who wants to take it on. I use I developed a screening questionnaire that can kind of guide you to each particular program, or program that's most suited to your particular gut type, is the best way I can describe it, whether you're struggling with a gastritis, heartburn type of thing, or more bloating, discomfort, SIBO type of thing, constipation. So if you fill in a questionnaire, it can take you to the correct program. And that's online on my website. And so basically it's based on a 4 or 5R functional medicine approach. And so you essentially want to remove, so the 5 R's are remove, replace, reinoculate, repair, and then focusing on the rest and digest nervous system. So that's your parasympathetic nervous system. So sitting down to eat, not eating on the run, some good deep breaths before eating, just to kind of get you out of that fight and flight sympathetic mode that so many of us are trapped in. So remove the proven inflammatory foods from the diet. The big 4 are gluten, cow's milk, dairy, processed sugar, and alcohol. Sometimes there are a few others that you need to avoid. And then talks about replacing stomach acid if it's low. Sometimes we need to use digestive enzymes or other herbals to help or aid the digestive process. And then reinoculate is, and this is another important point, we think, oh, gut health, let's just add a probiotic, but sometimes that can actually make it so much worse. You really need to understand what's going on in your gut, and that'll help you know whether you need a probiotic or not. And sometimes we actually don't. Sometimes it'll worsen things. But eventually,
I think that's such a good point to mention. Sorry, because I think there is like a hype around probiotics in today's time. And I remember my experience with you, because my mom would say to me, has your doctor not put you on a probiotic? And I said, no, my gut needs to get healthier first in order to get to that point, which makes sense when you spoke to me about it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And eventually a healthy gut also means regular fermented food coming in, where you're getting pre and probiotics. But if you're struggling with a bad SIBO, a small intestine bacterial or fungal overgrowth, then just adding probiotics won't necessarily help in the beginning. And then repair. So repair is all about help support the health of the lining of the gut, that mucous membrane. And there are various things you can use there. Aloe is brilliant. Aloe juice, optimizing your vitamin D.
Yes.
Bone broth or some kind of L-glutamine, omega-3s. And then also just giving your gut time on a low inflammatory diet, because your body's always in this state of continual repair. And so if we just give it the tools to do that better, it generally works well. Yeah.
Yeah, that tends to be tough. I feel like for people that have maybe never done sort of a detox before. From my experience, I remember it being quite tough, but knowing I wanted to commit to the process because I knew the result was going to be good. And through that experience, I can share with those watching is that it was tough, taking out the processed sugar at that time when I was feeling stressed. Obviously my sugar cravings were through the roof. Those choc chip cookies from Woolies in the purple white packet were my downfall. But coming out of that, I learned so much, firstly, of my body. I became a lot more aware of how I was feeling without certain foods. And then you will obviously touch on this, but reintroducing things and getting to see that, oh, this is maybe not working for me.
Yeah.
So although it is a bit of a challenge, I would highly recommend whoever is watching this, if you are struggling with an unhealthy gut, like it's so worth doing that elimination and giving your body a break so that you can reset and build on from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that is then you said the re-inoculation, right? Part?
Yeah. Inoculate, repairing gut lining, and then the rest and digest. So many of us are stressed, and I personally think that we haven't biologically adapted to the amount of stress and stimuli that we're exposed to these days. And so we often are caught in what we call sympathetic overdrive. So when you're caught in that sort of fight and flight mode, your gut does not like digesting food in that mode. It thrives and digests better if you're in the opposite, which is we call it the rest and digest mode. So when your parasympathetic nervous system is activated. And easy ways to do that, there's what's called the square breath, which is on my Instagram page. It's a little video explaining it, and it's very easy. It's so simple. And just to do a minute or two of that before you eat a meal, just really try and not eat on the run in the car.
And I think also just sort of stress management techniques throughout the day are crucial too. So apart from just the food that you're eating, I mean, it is really difficult, I think, in the fast-paced times that we are living in. Speaking from my own experience, corporate really didn't do my body any good. But it's not to say that you can't, achieve sort of a balanced life. You just have to really set strict boundaries for yourself, so that you can live that balanced life and prioritize your health ultimately. Because I'm sure you come across so many patients from, different walks of life, but the common thread is stress.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So it's just getting that under control.
Yes, for sure. And another misconception is that, a low inflammatory diet or sorting your gut health out is going to be very expensive. Actually not. Once it's worth doing this sort of very strict 25-day protocol and then working out meals and meal plans that could work for you that are then low inflammatory, and then you can carry on, like do it strict 100% for the 25 days, and then your baseline maintenance diet needs to stay low inflammatory at least sort of 80-90% of the time, and you will see results, and it's not going to break the bank. You can eat all fruit, veggies, meat, non-processed carbs, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the processed gluten-free stuff that's going to cost you a fortune.
The whole food approach is always best.
Absolutely.
And it's also a lot of fun. I remember during the start of my journey, getting to know different foods or introducing new things. like sauerkraut, for instance. That became a staple to introduce into my foods. I remember coming out of that sugar rush and reaching for then blueberries as a snack, like a sweeter snack. So there's all these things. Bone broth I started making myself. Fortunately, you can buy those now on the shops. But I think there's also like a therapeutic aspect to preparing your own food if you do have the time or make the time on the weekend. And you're learning something new. So I guess we're starting a new year. It's 2024 for those again watching. If part of your resolution is to cook new recipes or become healthier, you can actually have a lot of fun throughout this process too.
Absolutely, so true. Yeah.
And then on just your take on supplements, and of course, Bloom is in the business of supplements. But like I said at the beginning, our key is also to educate and empower women and men that we come across. Our new Bloat Relief product is for both men and women. But just coming from you and your perspective, what should we look out for when it comes to supplements on the shelf?
Yeah, so it needs to be applicable to your needs. I wouldn't kind of just grab any odd thing. Do a bit of research and look. Again, on the program, it has a whole breakdown of things that could help certain ailments. I know your guys' Bloat Relief has got a really great combination of herbals in it. And I love herbs. I think most medicines started off as herbal, well, not most, but a huge portion of them. And using herbs in their whole form are usually so effective. So yeah, just doing some research and seeing what would be most applicable to what you're needing to use, and then just focus on what's going to get your gut inflammation settled and repair that gut lining first before you add on a whole lot of other stuff. And
I was going to say that.
And then also, as you mentioned earlier, nutrient deficiencies, it's so good to sort your absorption out first and then try and top your nutrients up. Before, often see people, they've been on months and months of iron and they're just not absorbing it, and then you get the gut inflammation settled and the gut lining healthier, and then one course of iron and they actually start absorbing it better.
Again, from my experience, we tried the supplement route first with iron, and I think it went from like 6 to 8 within a month, which was like not enough. And so then the iron infusions were necessary for me. And honestly, I remember you telling me you're going to feel like a new person. And after the first one, it did increase quite significantly, but it wasn't enough. And then by the second one, if I think back to the time that I met you in 2022 versus the person I am now and the energy that I have, it's like two different people. So I'm so glad that we're having this chat, because I know that I'm not the only one that had struggled, or someone may be struggling now. If I just think of the women that come forward and speak about their struggles, I mean, when you have your period, you experience bloating. When you head into menopause, your hormones are going all over the place. Bloating becomes, really bothersome, and that's why we looked into the research and formulated Bloat Relief. But then having conversations like this is so key, so that women can understand, their bodies better. And understand just popping a pill isn't necessarily going to help. It's going to take a whole lifestyle adjustment, but for the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so true.
So I think that covers all the main things. We hadn't mentioned physical activity, but I feel like that's a given to keep your digestive system in check. And keep things moving. So just having, even if it's gentle movement, once a day. So I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to mention before we head into, because I see we're getting some questions.
Not particularly. I mean, I can talk for days about the gut, but no, stop me now. Yeah.
What I actually did find interesting in one of my sessions with you was also just speaking around, I know this is specifically got to do with the gut, but the thyroid functioning too, and things that we need to look out for there in
Yeah.
terms of deficiencies we may have, because that also plays a role on our overall health.
Yeah.
So just like a key bit to this chat about gut health.
Okay. Yeah. Well, absolutely. So the thyroid, so much of the thyroid dysfunction that we're seeing these days is due to autoimmune thyroiditis, or something known as Hashimoto's or Graves. And again, that directly links back to gut. In fact, most autoimmune conditions, obviously, you have to have the genetic tendency and various other things going on, but most of the time, if you've got a leaky gut or increased gut wall permeability, gut dysbiosis or microbiome imbalance, that really puts you at risk of an autoimmune condition, of which the thyroiditis is one of the most common. And then there are various other ways that your thyroid can be affected by the gut. So you need B12, D, and iron to be very much at optimal levels for healthy thyroid hormone function, and to actually open the little thyroid hormone receptors on all your cells. And then another liver enzyme, actually called your alkaline phosphatase, or your ALP, if that's low, it's one of the indicators of either low stomach acid and or a SIBO or gut dysbiosis, amongst other things like low zinc, etc. But that's another thing that opens that little thyroid hormone receptor and lets the thyroid hormone in. So even if you get told your TSH and your T3 T4 are normal, you can still be feeling hypothyroid because of various other things directly linking back to gut health. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that super interesting. I still remember you drawing it out for me and
Yeah.
explaining why you were testing, certain levels
Yes.
to make sure everything is functioning optimally.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be a great add-on. But I'm just going to have a look to see. I think initially we had a question on how can I heal my gut? Okay, I think we've covered that. And if a person's dealing with constipation, that's obviously a sign of an unhealthy gut. We will touch more on your gut reset program towards the end. But perhaps maybe just quickly, are there key foods that you see, generally patients consuming and it really contributing positively towards their gut healing journey?
In a good way or a bad
Good
way?
way.
Good way. Yes. So absolutely. I mean, the fruit and veg in its whole form, absolutely, and more sort of so than juiced fruit and veg. You actually want the fiber in there. Bone broth is a game changer. There's a vegan broth recipe and it's in the recipe book, but really it is those high levels of collagen and glutamine that you want in bone broth. And if you can get that in kind of as while you're doing the regime, if you're doing 1 cup every 2 days, that'll be amazing, and you'll feel the difference. And actually, some of my patients, so long as they're not terribly stressed or low BMI, a bone broth fast can be a really amazing thing to do to really kind of expedite results. And then aloe. And we're so lucky to live in South Africa because we've got lots of aloe ferox, and the inner pulp of the aloe leaf with the bitters removed is super soothing and very supportive to the gut lining. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I mean, just definitely avoiding those
vouch for all of those and things. And I think also just following that whole food approach helps too. So try and ditch the processed stuff as far as you can. Absolutely. I see we've got another question. Should we get blood tests done or see a doctor before embarking on a gut reset?
Yeah, I would suggest it just to get a baseline and see where you're at. But it's not an absolute necessity. It's still something that you can take on so long anyway. But it's always good to know because so many people are actually deficient in areas without them even knowing it.
Okay. And then we've got a question, why is peanut butter not allowed when healing the gut?
So it's one of the, so it's not one of the main inflammatory foods, but there are still foods that are highly allergenic, and we want to avoid those for at least the first 10 days. So egg is a common one as well, peanuts, soya. Yeah, so that's the reason for it.
Okay. And then I don't know if there are any other questions or if I may have missed any, but we will be posting a recording of this afterwards. And if anyone does have any questions, they're welcome to direct message me or you directly. But yeah, I'm so excited to just touch more on your online gut reset program. I obviously did this back in 2022 before you had launched the online program, and you gave me the opportunity to have a look at it. And I think it's incredible what you've done and how you've put it together, and it's just so seamless and user friendly. So I highly encourage whoever's watching this to purchase it. So Dr. Leah has kindly offered us a 20% discount code, which we'll share afterwards. So that would unlock 20%. And it runs for, you said initially, because I know I did like a 25-day one.
It runs over the first 5 days of preparation days, and then it kicks off automatically and runs over 25 days. So the whole thing is going to be 30 days. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you've laid it out really nicely. So you put it in sections where it's like bits of information at a time, because this can be really overwhelming. And you've got your recipe book in there and additional supporting documents which you can print out. I remember during my time, I was tracking sort of what I was eating. So because I worked closely with you and Steph, the dietitian at the time, and so I could really figure out, like, you know, what I was eating, how I was feeling that day, and try and pick up a pattern. So I don't know, again, if you have anything further to share on your online program.
No, I think, yeah, that's it. The questionnaire should take you where you need to go, and then yeah, if there are questions, just send them. That's no problem. And then it is, you know, it's the gold standard way of working out food intolerances is an elimination diet with a very sort of dedicated, aware reintroduction of foods afterwards. So it is, it's the best way to do it. Even if you know you had blood tests done that doesn't pick up an allergy, you can still be reacting to food in terms of a food intolerance, and this is gold standard way to working that out.
Yeah, I remember picking up rice triggered me when I reintroduced it. So again, I really can't speak like more highly about my time with you and the role you played in my journey. The fact that I'm not on PPIs anymore and I'm not struggling the way I did. Like, whenever someone brings up their gut health, I'm like, you need to speak to Dr. Leah. And I'm so happy now that you have an online program to share with more people, because I know you are quite fully booked. And you've got patients to see to, whereas now you've like opened it up and shared your resource. So thanks again, honestly, for your time and effort that you put into your one-on-one consultations and all the things you do outside of this. I know you also hosted a few retreats starting during the COVID period. So you can just keep us posted on ones coming up. And again, those that are watching, please give Dr. Leah Murray a follow on Instagram. We'll share her website on our stories together with the discount code. And yeah, do yourself a favor. I think payday is happening on Friday. Or is it tomorrow? What's today? I've like lost track of time. Today's the 24th, so it should be tomorrow. So it's a great, I think, first month purchase for the year that will see you through this year and years to come. So thank you so much, Dr. Leah. It's such an honor to have you, and I hope we can have a few more chats in the future.
Yeah, happy to.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Thanks
thanks
to
for having me.
those. Thank you. And thanks to those that have joined in and to those that will end up watching the recording later.
Great.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your
Okay.
day.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.